Look at the cream level on those babies. I want to thank all my subscribers, past and present. Welcome to all the new subscribers. I'm guessing a lot of you are new to kefiR. So I'm going to go over today's ferment. Leave your comments and questions below, please. Love to hear what you got to say. Also, let me know what you think about my kefiR history segments and the unique people of the Caucasus and High Caucasus Mountains. The culture goes back for thousands of years. So we're going to look at this kefiR here today. This one, I was going to pull it out a minute ago, but I let it go to a full 2 hours. And by the way, my temperatures are changing here. I can see that I should have pulled it out 15 minutes sooner. Ratio. It was a little too far. I should have took a picture of it 15 minutes ago, removed that bottom, and it looked like that without it. This was fermented for an hour and a half after being in the refrigerator. It's a matter of adjusting your timing and the temperatures. Since here at my house, it just got warm. I live in the Midwest, so one day, right now in the springtime, one day it could be 30, next day it could be 70 outside, so changes the temperatures quite a bit. So this one here I had in my refrigerator, and I noticed when I checked it when I got home that it was starting to separate in the top layer, like I've shown a couple videos about early separation. So it was in the refrigerator. I wasn't planning on taking it out yet, so I shook it up real good and then left it in the refrigerator all night till this morning. Shook it up real good and then proceeded to take it out because it was already starting to separate. Part of that reason is because I lowered the temperature in my refrigerator. It was at about 3.5 to 4, which was pretty cold. I lowered it down to 2, and my kefiR started finishing it much faster. This normally would have been, I would have normally left this out about 3 hours or so, but now with the warmer temperature in the fridge, I only needed 2 hours. So the temperature of your fridge definitely affects how long it's going to take for you. The whole temperature situation is a big factor into how your kefiR is going to work out. 3 main factors are grain ratio, temperatures, and then that will equal your time to get a kefiR finished how you like. Sometime by this point or earlier, typically. So if you have a small amount of grains, low grain ratio in your milk, it's going to take longer. Could take 24 hours. If you have a lot of grains, it's going to get done faster. If you're like 50% grain ratio, I mean, you could be at 2 hours. But that actual time, comparing from your grain ratio, is going to depend 100% also on the temperature. The hotter it is, the faster it's going to ferment. The colder it is, the longer it's going to take to ferment. So the combination of those two, your grain ratio plus your temperature, will equal the time that you need to get the result that you want here as far as the consistency of the kefiR and pulling it out before it separates to whey. Ideally, you want to pull it before this. And so on the last video about the second ferment, of course we don't do that, but I will mention that I don't really pay much attention to it, but the kefiR does end up sitting out many times for me before I drink it. Like, I'll take it and I'll put it in my lunch bag, and it will sit in my lunch bag for half the day easily. If I forget about it, I usually put it in the refrigerator, but sometimes I forget about it, leave it in my bag, and then later on it just gets super bubbly, intense, massive kefiR flavor. Basically, everything is accelerated but 6 to 10 times. If you let it sit out for 2 to 4 hours, that can equal an entire day of a second ferment just for having it out for 2 hours while you're drinking. So this one here was out from the refrigerator, which I turned down to number 2. I only had this out for 2 hours at 68 degrees. And it's about a 1/3 ratio. There's got about that many grains and the rest is filled with milk. So we'll see when I put it back in at the end. Do a quick strain on this and then we'll see how. I've also noticed I stepped up to 24-ounce old pickle jar. It was a pickle jar. Had it cleaned out real well. Problem with this jar is you can't get a good separation of the whey out the bottom. Since I did get some separations on this, actually that'd be 3 times now. I did get slight separation in the refrigerator and then slight separation again, which I shook. And then I let it ferment extra long. It got a slight separation again. So, because I just changed all my times and temperatures, things are going to change, need to be adjusted. This is going to happen as you go throughout the seasons and your grain growth. It's just something, it's not a big deal. You just deal with it and adjust for the next day. The next day you got new kefiR. Or you can do another batch right now, readjust, and you can have it ready right away if you don't put it in the refrigerator. This actually turned out nice and bubbly. It's a lot of bubble action to that. Grains are growing nicely. These grains are about 2 months old. And I actually have another jar as well that I got some separated into. Let me grab that. Yeah, I still have a 16 going. This one succumbed to the temperatures a little faster. So I either need more milk or more time. Less time. Less time is what I'm looking for, but you can adjust it. If your temperatures and things aren't working out, you need to adjust things to work out for what you got to work with, so you can adjust to change your timing and how everything's going. So if you just can't stop it from going too fast, you might need to go with a little bit lower grain ratio because it's too hot in your house. And then you'll need to try to disturb it a little more often, but not aggressively. And if you disturb it towards the end of the ferment, that's when it'll break it. Like you can shake it pretty aggressively in the refrigerator and at the beginning. Once you get to about halfway in the fermenting process, you don't want to shake it real aggressively because that'll kind of it'll split your stuff up. So, yeah, these grains look really nice though. They're looking real good. Just make sure you get them warmed up. You should get some warming up regularly every day. I don't like to leave it. You don't want to leave them in the refrigerator for a real long time. You can get some problems with your yeast, which would be horrible. If I lose yeast, I don't even like kefiR. I mean, it's a main component. You got to have yeast in your kefiR. It's part of the matrix. If you don't like yeast, the best thing to do is to remove your ferment earlier. Don't let it ferment to whey production. The longer it goes, the more yeast. So that's how many grains are in there. You can see, we'd say it's about that many grains. I had it filled up to here with milk. So it's about 1/3 ratio. Which, I mean, your jar's 1/3 and then you go the rest with milk. Not all the way. You always want to leave gap. You always want to have some gap for air and expansion. Not too many rivers in this one, some, but it's not extreme. Alright guys, enjoy. Happy kefiRing. This is a shot of the beautiful Kabardinka dance of the Circassians.